They say wealth can buy comfort, status, and every luxury a man desires, but there is one thing it can never guarantee: peace inside the home. This is the story of a respected merchant whose name echoed across his village, a man blessed with abundance yet cursed with unrest. His house was filled with gold, but his nights were filled with arguments, sickness, and a strange heaviness no doctor could explain. Everyone praised him to his face, yet hated him in their hearts. Everyone bought from his shop, yet secretly made duet against him, and he had no idea why. One day, desperate for answers, he set out to meet a wise elder rumored to see beyond what eyes can perceive, a man who could recognize truth in a heartbeat and distinguish between pure and impure earnings without touching a single coin. What began as a simple visit soon pulled the merchant into a spiritual storm, a test that would strip his wealth, challenge his pride, and reveal a truth so painful, yet so liberating, that it would change his destiny forever. Because sometimes the real poison in our lives is not outside. It is hidden in the way we treat others. And until a person faces that truth, peace will never enter their home. In every village, there is one house people point to when they talk about success. In this village, that house belonged to Hamid. He owned the biggest shop in the center, a place everyone visited sooner or later. If someone needed flour, rice, sugar, cloth, salt, oil, or soap, they went to Hamid. From the poorest laborer to the richest landowner, all roads led to his wooden counter. Outwardly, Hamid lived the life others dreamed of. Men greeted him with deep salams when he passed. Women said his family was well settled and blessed. Children watched him ride his horse and whispered his name in admiration. Traders in nearby towns spoke of Hamid the rich merchant with respect. What Hamid did not see was what happened after he turned away. Smiles fell from faces. Voices that had been soft became hard. People who had just thanked him quietly raised their hands in complaint when they reached home. They needed him, but they did not love him. They respected his position, but they disliked the way he used it. There was a reason for this hidden anger, though no one dared to say it to him. It had not begun with one big argument. It had grown slowly, like dust gathering in a house that is never truly cleaned. Every time a poor man left feeling cheated, every time a widow begged for a fair price and was refused, every time a worker felt trapped because there was nowhere else to buy, another small wound opened in the village. The people carried those wounds in their hearts and remembered. Inside his house, Hamid's life also looked impressive. He lived with his wife Aisha, his elder son Imran and Imran's young wife, and his younger son Yusuf, who studied in a nearby town. Their home was large and solid. Carpets softened the floors. Copper pots shone on the walls. The storeroom was full. To a visitor, it looked like a clear sign of blessing. Yet there was something missing that no one saw at first glance. The house had everything except peace. Many evenings, the air inside was heavy. Imran came back from the shop tired and tense, only to find his wife upset about a word he had said or a chore he had forgotten. Voices rose quickly. Doors closed with force. Aisha tried to calm both sides and ended up exhausted and silent. On other nights, no one shouted, but the silence itself hurt. People moved past each other without meeting eyes. Short sentences replaced warm conversation. They lived together, but it did not feel like a home. Illness also visited often. One month, it was Imran's cough. Another month, it was Aisha's sudden weakness. When Yusuf returned from his studies, he would sometimes fall sick without clear reason. Doctors were called, medicines were bought, but the pattern repeated. Relief came, then faded. Strength returned, then slipped away again. Hamid saw all of this. He saw the arguments, the tired faces, the strange rhythm of sickness and recovery. But he told himself the same thing again and again. Every family has problems. Time will fix it. When business grows a little more, everything will settle. It was easier to blame the days than to ask whether something deeper was wrong. Even so, a small uneasiness stayed with him. Whenever his profits rose, some sudden expense swallowed the extra money. Whenever the house grew a little calmer, a new quarrel appeared from nowhere. He had money, reputation, and comfort, but not the calm feeling of a truly safe home. One evening, as the sun sank behind the trees and shadows stretched across the market, an old farmer lingered at Hamid's counter. After paying for his grain, the man watched him count coins with quick, confident fingers. "You are fortunate, Hamid," the farmer said quietly. "You have more than all of us." "Alhamdulillah," Hamid replied with a smile. "It is from Allah." The farmer hesitated, then added in a softer voice, "May Allah also give your house peace." For a moment, Hamid's hands stopped. Then he forced them to move again. "What do you mean?" he asked, pretending to laugh. "My house is fine." The farmer lowered his gaze. "I only made a prayer," he said. He lifted the sack of grain onto his shoulders and walked away before Hamid could continue. That night the old man's words would not leave Hamid's mind. At dinner, he listened while Imran and his wife argued over some small matter. Aisha rubbed her temples and tried to change the subject. Hamid ate in silence, hearing only one sentence echo inside, "May Allah also give your house peace." Later, when the lamps were out and everyone else slept, Hamid sat alone in the courtyard. The sky above was full of cold stars. From far away came a dog's short bark, then stillness. He looked at the doorway of his house, at the storeroom window, at the faint outline of his shop sign. For the first time in a long while, he allowed himself to ask the question he usually pushed away. "Why isn't there peace in my house?" he whispered. The words surprised even him. Once spoken, they would not go back. He thought of his long days at the shop, of the way some customers flinched when they heard his prices, of poor villagers counting coins twice before handing them over. A small doubt stirred in his chest, but he quickly covered it. "Business is business," he told himself. "If I don't take my profit, how will I feed my family?" The days that followed looked the same from the outside. Hamid opened his shop, weighed goods, counted money, and closed at night. Yet the question stayed with him like a stone in his pocket. He could ignore it while busy, but whenever things grew quiet, he felt its weight again. Once a month, Hamid traveled to the nearby city to buy supplies. On one of those trips, after finishing his usual bargaining with the wholesalers, he tied his bundles and led his horse through the crowded streets. Carts rattled over stone. Water sellers called out. Children ran between stalls. By midday the sun was hot, and Hamid stopped near an old mosque to rest in its shade. As he stood there, two men sat by the entrance, speaking in low, serious tones. Their words drifted clearly through the warm air. "Have you seen Sheikh Rahman?" one asked. "People come from far-off villages to ask for his prayers. They say Allah has given him a special insight. He can look at a person's life and know if his earnings are pure or polluted." The other man nodded. "I heard a trader once came and complained that his house had no peace. The sheikh told him, 'Your problem is hidden in the way you earn your money.'" Later the man admitted he had been taking advantage of people's need for years. Hamid felt a chill along his neck. He pretended to adjust the rope on his bundles, but his ears were fixed on their voices. "They say he never takes a coin for himself," the first man continued. "He lives in a small room at the back of this very mosque. Whatever people bring, he uses to help the poor. A man who could see the truth about someone's income. A man people trusted with their secrets. A man others believed Allah had guided." The thought pulled at Hamid and pushed him away at the same time. Part of him wanted to leave quickly and forget what he had heard. Another part whispered, "What if this is the answer to your question?" He stood still for a long heartbeat, caught between pride and unease. Then, with a slow breath, he picked up his bundles and turned toward the mosque door. He did not know it yet, but with those few hesitant steps, his life had already begun to change. The interior of the mosque was quiet, cool, and bathed in soft light. Dust motes floated through the sunbeams like drifting thoughts, visible for a moment, then gone. Hamid stepped inside slowly, as though afraid his footsteps would disturb something sacred. The murmur of the market outside faded behind him, replaced by the calm rhythm of distant Quran recitation. A young student pointed toward a small side room. "The sheikh is inside. You may wait there." Hamid nodded, but his heart beat harder with each step he took. He was a man used to dealing with people, customers, traders, city merchants, landowners. Yet this was different. Here, the weight he carried was not on his shoulders but in his conscience, a weight he had only recently begun to notice. At the door of the sheikh's chamber, he paused. Then he took a breath and entered. The small room was simple. A woven mat, a low wooden shelf with a few books, and an elderly man seated with his eyes closed, his fingers passing gently over a string of prayer beads. His face showed no sign of wealth or authority, yet his presence filled the room more than any rich man's attire could. When Hamid whispered a greeting, the sheikh's eyes opened. There was no sharpness in them, yet Hamid felt they saw too much. "Wa alaikum assalam," the sheikh replied, his voice warm but steady. "Come closer, my son." Hamid sat before him, unsure how to begin. He felt as if the words in his throat were trapped behind pride and confusion. Finally, he forced them out. "Sheikh, my name is Hamid. Allah has blessed me with wealth, and a respected trade. Yet my house, my family, there is no peace there. Illness, arguments, heaviness, something is wrong, and I cannot understand why. The sheikh listened without interruption. When Hamid finished, the old man nodded slowly. Tell me, he said gently, does your family pray? Yes, Hamid replied immediately. We all perform our prayers. The sheikh studied him for a moment. And your work? What do you do? I run the main shop in my village, Hamid said. I buy goods from the city and sell them there. Flour, sugar, cloth, whatever people need. The sheikh leaned back slightly. His next words came quietly, but they struck with sudden force. My son, I fear your earnings may not be pure. Hamid's breath caught. For a moment he stared at the sheikh, unsure whether he had heard correctly. My earnings, he repeated. But I sell normal goods, halal things. I work hard. How could my income be haram? The sheikh's expression did not change. Not the goods, Hamid, the manner. He tapped lightly on his heart. Sometimes a man wrongs others without realizing it. And that wrong, no matter how small, brings darkness to his home. A protest rose in Hamid's chest. He wanted to defend himself, to say he never cheated anyone intentionally. But something, perhaps guilt, perhaps fear, held him silent. The sheikh continued, if the money entering your home is earned unjustly, even unknowingly, then peace will leave. Hearts will clash. Illness will rise. Blessings will fade. Hamid swallowed, his mind racing. The old farmer's words, may Allah give your house peace, echoed again. Was this the meaning behind them? What must I do? He finally whispered. The sheikh closed his eyes for a moment, as if searching for clarity. Then he spoke with quiet certainty. For the next full month, keep every coin you earn separate. Do not spend even 1 rupee of it. Run your household only on your old savings. After the month is complete, bring the entire earnings to me. Then, by Allah's permission, I will show you what needs to be shown. Hamid blinked in confusion. Bring you all my earnings? Yes, the sheikh said calmly. Every coin. Shock rushed through Hamid. The request felt unreasonable. How would giving coins to a stranger reveal whether they were lawful? What would the sheikh do? Smell them, count them, pray over them? A dangerous thought slipped in. Is he testing me or tricking me? The sheikh must have sensed the hesitation, because he added gently, you may refuse if you wish. Guidance cannot be forced. But if you wish for truth, you must be ready to face it. Hamid lowered his gaze. Pride battled against fear. Logic battled against desperation. But in the end, the question that had plagued him for months, the question of his home's lost peace, pushed him to acceptance. I will do as you say, Hamid replied at last. The sheikh nodded. May Allah make it easy. The journey back to the village felt longer than usual. As Hamid rode his horse through dusty roads and quiet fields, the sheikh's words echoed in his head. Your earnings may not be pure. Wronging people brings darkness. Bring all your income to me. The more he replayed the conversation, the more uneasy he felt. Why money? He murmured aloud. How will he know anything from money? Suspicion tightened its grip. What if the sheikh was clever, respected, connected, yet still human enough to deceive? He remembered the students at the mosque. What if they all shared in the gold people handed over? By the time he reached home, doubt had grown into something heavy. At dinner, he explained everything to his wife and sons. They listened with wide eyes. Aisha spoke first. If he is a man of Allah, then there is no harm in trusting him. Perhaps he will guide us. Imran nodded. People speak highly of him, father. Maybe he can help. Hamid exhaled heavily. Or maybe he is simply after my earnings. Neither Aisha nor Imran responded. Their silence only deepened the knot in Hamid's chest. Yet despite his fears, he began the month-long test. Every day, Hamid worked as usual, but now he placed every coin of profit into a separate pouch. He touched none of it. He watched the pouch grow heavier and heavier, like a physical reminder of his inner conflict. At night, he lay awake wondering, will he take it all? Will he return it? Will he expose me? Will he shame me? The month felt endless, but finally the day arrived. Hamid counted the coins, 400 bright gold dinars. A month's worth of work. A month's worth of hope and fear. He placed the coins into a leather pouch, mounted his horse, and set off toward the city. Every step of the journey echoed his doubt. The closer he came to the sheikh's mosque, the stronger his suspicion grew. And yet, there was also a flicker of hope. A quiet whisper. What if this truly brings answers? What if peace returns to my home? Hamid entered the mosque at sunset, trembling slightly as he held out the pouch of coins. The sheikh accepted it without counting. Return tonight after the prayer, the old man said simply. Your matter will be understood then. Hamid nodded and stepped outside with an uneasy heart. He had no idea that by the end of the night, he would leave the mosque questioning everything he believed about the sheikh, and about himself. When Hamid stepped out of the sheikh's chamber after handing over the 400 dinars, the evening sky had already sunk into a soft purple. The call to prayer drifted through the market streets, stretching into the quiet courtyards like a calm wind settling over dust. But inside Hamid, there was no calm, only a growing storm. He walked toward the caravanserai, where he had tied his horse. His steps were quick, restless. Every few moments he glanced over his shoulder, as if someone might be following him. Why did he take the money without counting it? Why did he not even ask how much there was? What kind of test is this? The doubts pressed tighter around him. At the Saria, he sat cross-legged on a low bench and ran his hands over his face. The smell of cooked lentils drifted in the air, but he had no appetite. His mind replayed the sheikh's expression, calm, unbothered, expectant. As if he already knew what the month had been like. As if he already knew the weight of every coin in that pouch. Hamid rubbed his forehead. No man can know such things, he whispered. And yet, the sheikh had looked at him with a certainty that unsettled him more than doubt ever had. Soon, the prayer time approached, and Hamid returned to the mosque. He prayed in the third row, his knees weak, his palms trembling slightly as he raised them. When he finished, he remained seated, unable to move, waiting until the worshippers thinned out. Finally, a student gestured toward the sheikh's room. He is ready for you. Hamid stood and walked with a stiff, uneasy gait. Inside, the sheikh sat exactly as before, as though he had not moved since afternoon. Come, my son, the elderly man said gently. Hamid entered. His heart thudded. The sheikh reached beside him and lifted a pouch, Hamid's pouch. But it looked lighter. Much lighter. Here, the sheikh said, placing the bag into Hamid's hands. These are your coins. Use only these for the next month. Hamid's breath caught. The weight was wrong. Far too light. He opened the pouch with trembling fingers. Only 80 dinars. His pulse spiked, blood rushing hot into his face. Where were the rest? The sheikh did not flinch. Use these, he repeated calmly, and return to me in 1 month with your new earnings. Hamid stood frozen. His mind screamed. He took them. He actually took them. He is a fraud. I have been tricked. Yet the sheikh's serene expression only deepened Hamid's confusion. Go, my son, the old man said softly. Allah knows what lies ahead. Trust the journey. Hamid wanted to shout, return my money. But the words stuck to his throat. The sheikh's presence pressed on him like a weight he could not resist. Disoriented and angry, he turned and left without a word. Outside, the world felt strange, like he was walking through a dream made sharp with humiliation. He returned to the caravanserai, untied his horse, and rode out of the city in silence. But when he reached an empty stretch of road, anger burst out of him like flame. He steals from people, and they call him a man of Allah. Hamid spat into the wind. He fooled me. He fooled everyone. His chest tightened painfully. His fingers clenched the reins until his knuckles whitened. When he reached the caravanserai again to rest for the night, he shut himself in a small room. There, under the dim glow of an oil lamp, he dumped the 80 dinars onto the floor and counted them again and again. 80, 80, 80. Each repetition fed his fury. He kept 320 dinars, Hamid whispered, voice shaking. What kind of holy man does that? Frustration boiling, Hamid paced the small space. His thoughts became sharper, darker. I will confront him again. No, he has influence. People worship him. But the Qazi will listen. Justice must exist somewhere. He stormed back into the city the next morning and demanded an audience with the Qazi. When finally admitted, he recited everything. How he had brought his earnings, how the sheikh took most of it, how he returned only a small amount. But the Qazi's face remained unreadable. When Hamid finished, the Qazi leaned back and said coldly, Do you know who Sheikh Rahman is? He taught me, and the other 2 Qazis in this region. If you bring such accusations without proof, you will not harm him. You will only disgrace yourself. The words hit Hamid like a slap. He stared in disbelief. But, he took my money. The Qazi shut the ledger before him. Leave this matter. You cannot win it. Humiliation burned Hamid's throat as he left the chamber. He had come seeking justice, and found no door open. When he returned home later that day, his family gathered around him anxiously. Aisha asked softly, What did the sheikh say? Hamid dropped the pouch of 80 dinars on the table and muttered, He stole the rest. Aisha gasped. Imran stepped forward. Father, are you sure? Count them yourself, Hamid snapped. His voice cracked with bitterness. Imran poured the coins onto the table. His face paled. But this is so little. Hamid gripped the edge of the table. I will never go back to him again. But then days passed. Something strange began to happen. The house quieted. Arguments faded before they grew loud. Aisha seemed lighter, more patient. Imran came home from the shop each day with less frustration. Illnesses that usually lingered disappeared quickly. The air inside the house, once thick and tense, felt softer, calmer. One morning, as sunlight streamed through the courtyard, Aisha said, Hamid, do you feel it? The house is different. He paused mid-step. He had been feeling the same, but fear prevented him from acknowledging it. It is coincidence, he muttered. But coincidence does not last. A week became 2. 2 became 3. And each day brought more peace, more ease, more clarity. Meanwhile, his suspicion of the sheikh weakened, then twisted into confusion. If he is a thief, why is my home healing? Why does peace increase from the very coins I believed were stolen? Could he have taken only what was unjust? The thought scared him. The possibility scared him more. By the time the next month began, a quiet resolve settled in Hamid's heart. I must go back, he whispered one evening. Whether I like it or not, I must know the truth. But this time, the month ahead would test him harder than the first. Because this time, his earnings would be far greater, and the fear of losing them would expose a part of him he had never fully seen. The journey toward truth was not over. It was only now sharpening its blade. The next month arrived with an unusual heaviness. It was the month of Eid, when business always boomed, when families bought flour, cloth, sweets, gifts, oil, and spices. Hamid's shop was full from dawn until nightfall. Villagers lined up outside even before he opened the doors. By the end of the month, the coins he earned filled not 1, but 3 leather pouches. 1,200 dinars. More wealth than he had counted in a long time. But the weight of those pouches felt nothing like victory. They felt like fear. Every coin glittered like a question he did not want to answer. One evening, after closing the shop, he sat alone beside the shelves and whispered to himself, if the sheikh takes this whole amount, or if he keeps even half, what then? Am I prepared to lose what I worked so hard for? He looked around at the store he had built. The long wooden counter, the jars of spices, the sacks of flour stacked against the wall. He imagined 3 pouches of money disappearing into someone else's hands. His heart shrank. By the time the month ended, he made a decision born from a mix of fear and curiosity. I will take only 500 dinars to him, he said aloud. Let him judge from that. The rest, I will hold back. He justified it quickly to silence his guilt. This is not disobedience. It is simply caution. Before dawn, he packed the 500 coins into a single pouch and tied it to his belt. The remaining 700 he hid beneath the wooden flooring of the shop. His horse was waiting outside, breath misting in the cool morning air. Hamid mounted and rode toward the city, mind churning with doubts and a strange hope he did not fully understand. By noon, the minarets of the Sheikh's mosque appeared in the distance. Hamid's pulse quickened. This is it. Today I will know who he truly is. He dismounted, tied his horse at the caravanserai, and walked toward the mosque with deliberate steps. The courtyard was quieter than usual. When he entered, the sheikh was already seated, as though expecting him. Peace be upon you, my son, the old man said with a soft smile. You seem troubled. Hamid bowed respectfully, though discomfort twisted inside him. He placed the pouch of 500 coins before the sheikh. The moment it touched the floor, something inside him felt exposed, like he was handing over more than just money. The sheikh placed one hand on the pouch, eyes narrowing slightly. How many coins are here, Hamid? Hamid's throat tightened. 500. And why? The sheikh asked gently. Only 500? The question pierced him. He could not breathe for a moment. How does he know? No one had seen him hide the remaining coins. He had told no one. He swallowed hard. It was a difficult month, he stammered weakly, though they both knew it was a lie. The sheikh said nothing. He simply waited, eyes calm, as though giving him a chance to speak the truth. But Hamid could not. Sit, the sheikh finally said. Hamid obeyed, lowering himself to the mat before the old man. The sheikh stood, walked to the back of the room, and returned carrying a large sack, one Hamid had never seen before. When the sheikh placed it down, it landed with a heavy sound, full and weighty. He opened the mouth of the sack and tilted it forward. Gold spilled out. Hamid gasped. The coins shimmered in a flood of light, a river of wealth rushing across the rug. There were hundreds, more than he had ever owned at one time. The sheikh reached into the pile and separated exactly 110 coins. He placed them gently into a smaller pouch and slid it toward Hamid. "These," he said, "are yours." Hamid stared at him, confused and breathless. The sheikh pointed at the mountain of gold still lying on the mat. "And these are not." Hamid blinked. I don't understand." "You will," the sheikh said. "But first, tell me, how is your home?" The question cut straight into his heart. Hamid lowered his gaze. "Peace has returned," he admitted softly. "The arguing stopped. The illness has faded. My house feels lighter." The sheikh nodded slowly. "And this change began when you spent only the 80 dinars I returned to you last month." Hamid swallowed hard. His hands trembled. "Yes." The sheikh's voice grew firmer, not harsh, but carrying the weight of truth. "My son, what you brought me last month was the entire harvest of your work. But only 80 coins among them were truly yours, truly halal. The rest were taken unjustly from the hands of people who had no choice but to buy from you. You did not rob them with force, you robbed them with prices, with greed, with the belief that their need gave you the right to take more than what was fair." Each word struck like a blade, not to wound, but to reveal. Hamid's breath faltered. His memory flashed with images. The widow counting her last coins. The farmer hesitating before paying. The young laborer quietly handing over more than he should. He had seen these moments many times, but never truly looked at them. The sheikh continued, "Peace left your home because injustice entered with every coin you took beyond what was fair." He placed a hand on the large sack of gold. "These are the coins you brought me, month after month, earnings mixed with darkness. And these," he motioned to the smaller pouch with 110 coins, "are the only ones pure enough to return to you." Hamid felt his chest collapse inward. Tears filled his eyes before he could stop them. "So he whispered, "I wronged my entire village." The sheikh nodded gently. "Not by intention, but by habit, by the blindness that wealth can create." Hamid pressed a hand over his face, ashamed. "What must I do now?" "Restore what was taken," the sheikh said. "Quietly, without announcing your virtue. When a villager comes to buy, lower the price. And return what you can, small amounts, saying only, 'This is a gift, a sadaqah for you.'" He leaned closer. "Do not say it is compensation. Do not shame them. Just return their rights little by little. And Allah will return peace to your home completely." Hamid burst into tears. He reached for the sheikh's hand, kissing it with trembling lips. Forgive me." The sheikh cupped his face. "Allah forgives the one who corrects his wrongs." Hamid left the mosque that day with a heart both broken and whole. The streets of the city looked different, as if every face he passed carried a message he had ignored for years. On the journey home, he wept quietly, asking Allah for forgiveness again and again. That evening, when he entered his village, the wind felt softer. The air felt cleaner, and when he saw his wife and children waiting at the door, his heart trembled, not with fear, but with gratitude. Over the next weeks, he did exactly as the sheikh had advised. He lowered his prices. He greeted customers with kindness. He slipped coins back into their hands discreetly. Soon, the villagers began whispering, "Hamid has changed. His shop is fair now. He treats us with mercy." And for the first time, their respect was real. Inside his house, laughter returned. Illnesses faded. Peace settled like sunlight after a long storm. Hamid finally understood. Halal money fills the home with light. Unjust wealth fills it with darkness. And Allah never removes peace from a family, except to guide them back to justice.